getting West Side Story produced. West Side Story had a different producer at the start. Her name was Cheryl Crawford, and she had produced a number of notable musicals, including Brigadoon and Paint Your Wagon. And they had a backers audition at her apartment where they didn't raise a single dollar because the people that would invest money in this didn't think it was commercial. So Cheryl Crawford drops out. But fortunately, there was a money manager, Roger L. Stevens, who was brought on as co-producer when they first talked about this. And he said, let's go on, we'll find a way to do this. So Steve Sondheim and Harold Prince, the producer and director that he collaborated with years and years in the 70s, were really good friends. And Hal Prince was up in Boston trying out a new musical called New Girl in Town, which starred Gwen Verdon, and it was choreographed by Bob Fosse. And it had basically about a year run on Broadway when it finally opened. But Hal said to Steve, send me the script. And Hal and his producing partner Robert Griffith, said, let us get New Girl in Town on, and we'll come and see what we can do about producing West Side Story. Well, the interesting thing is they were about 6 weeks away from rehearsals starting. So this became a really frantic process. And the other thing that Jerry Robbins did was he insisted that he have an 8-week rehearsal period, where the standard for a Broadway musical back then was 4 weeks. And Lenny was impressed because Prince was so musical. Well, Sondheim had played in the score several times before he actually sent Prince the script. So Lenny knew, or Hal knew the music already, and thought that that was great that they had a producer that actually knew music. So during the rehearsal period, this was really interesting. The Jets and the Sharks were not allowed to socialize. They couldn't eat lunch together. They couldn't go out after rehearsal together. They had to have that kind of rivalry in rehearsal that the stage production had. And there's a character, Anybody's, who is a female trying to get into the Jets gang that nobody liked. And the Jets wouldn't socialize with her, the Sharks wouldn't socialize with her, and she had nobody to eat lunch with. So let's go back to the Washington tryout. This, I think, is the most interesting story that I uncovered. Okay, Jerome Robbins, Jerry, was, I guess, more of a dictator, and whatever his sensibilities were, that's what was important. Well, he didn't want a vocal of Somewhere in His Precious Dream ballet. And so the compromise that they made was Somewhere is sung by an offstage voice. And they were willing to accommodate that. But Jerry hated the orchestration for Somewhere. The original orchestration was pretty busy, and So during it was a dress rehearsal, Jerry goes down to the conductor in the pit and the musicians, and he was musical enough to strip away what he didn't want in the orchestration. And Lenny would stand up to about anybody except Jerry. So Steve is trying to take all of this in, and he noticed Lenny is not around, and Robbins is getting his way, and Steve knows where to go look for Lenny. There's a bar next door, and Lenny has about 5 scotches lined up, and that's the way he's gonna spend the rest of the dress rehearsal. So I know in community theater we sometimes have conflicts between actors, directors, and what, but it's really interesting to hear how professionals really decide that they're either gonna give or take. Well, the other generous thing that Lenny did was, even though there's about 3 or 4 different pieces of lyrics that Lenny contributed to West Side Story, he looked at the fact that 85% was Sondheim, and he generously gave Steve sole credit, knowing that this was his first attempt to be a writer, and the critics might not really pick up on the fact that a lot of these were Steve's. So Lenny was generous there. Steve was so touched that even though he was entitled to a larger royalty as sole writer of the lyrics, he made the mistake of saying, "Oh, that's not important, I want the credit." So you can imagine the number of dollars that Steve has lost over the years with first-class productions of West Side Story. I know I'm going on a lot, and I guess I'll just say a few things about the film versions of West Side Story. Here's the most interesting